Grace and peace to you from God, who made you, redeemed you, and calls you into life without end. Amen. Almost 3 months have passed since Prince of Peace ceased worshiping together in person, due, of course, to the pandemic affecting our world. In those weeks since March 15th, we've shared significant events in the life of the church digitally, through YouTube videos or through Zoom worship with Cross of Glory. We've shared the times of Lent and Holy Week, Easter, Ascension, and Pentecost. During those many weeks, we've tried to find hope for our present day in the ancient texts that reveal God's plan for salvation for us. I assure you that as a pastor, preaching Easter texts at a time when death and fear of death were all around us seemed an almost natural way to hear God's promises of life. It seemed a most natural time to hear and recall the acts of God to overcome death for each of us and for all of creation. Today's scripture readings are appointed for Trinity Sunday. You can find them in a different video on this same page. While it's easy to get caught up in the mysterious doctrine of the day, our present time makes that less likely, I hope. Our time right now is still full of pandemic. Our time right now is also a literal shaking of the foundations on which so much of the culture we share has been built. We hear and see the evils of injustice recorded on cell phones and shared so many times that we can't shut our ears or turn our eyes away. We can't deny the fractures in our system of justice that have oppressed many, while many others benefit from that oppression. That pain and its impact is fueling both the hope and the fear so present on the streets today. Thankfully, in recent days, the focus has turned to making good come from evil acts of murder and oppression that led us to this moment. There may come a time when real measures and practical laws can be made to make justice roll down like waters, in the words of the prophet. This is a time of danger from pandemic and danger from injustice like none that I can remember ever before in my lifetime. Let's turn to God then and to Scripture for some assurance. Today we need not look far. It's there from the very beginning. Literally, from the beginning. We hear in Scripture today the entire first chapter of Genesis, word by word, power by power, day by day, life by life, being by being, we behold God creating everything. The first chapter of Genesis is often thought to reveal God bringing light and life by making order out of chaos. That presumes chaos before God began giving birth to creation, and today I'm perfectly fine with that presumption, because there is so much chaos in the world that we share. And the people of God could sure use some assurance. Let's consider that beginning from Genesis, the first time that we meet God in Scripture. We hear that the Spirit moved above the chaotic mess, so to speak, from which God birthed all of creation with order and beauty. This assures me that God is not intimidated by chaos. In fact, we might think of confusion, bedlam, anarchy, and pandemonium, the chaos that fills our world and our lives. We might think of these things as the raw material from which God fashions the best work of creation. It's easy to feel like life is out of control, but God is God in the midst of the chaos. It might feel like the world is falling apart, yet God is God in the midst of the chaos. Does it seem like a sea of chaos is engulfing you? Still, God is God in the very midst of that chaos, working good things for all creation. Thanks to the writers who gave us this story in Genesis 1, we hear an ordered, rhythmic description of what God is able to do with chaos. The patterns and rhythms of this creation story are like waves that hold up and support a raft on the waters of a lake. The patterns and rhythms of the story work to draw us into the experience of what God is able to do with chaos. Like waves holding that raft, it can even lift us into comfort. And God said, "Let there be." And God said, "Let there be." And God said, "Let there be." And it was so. And it was so. And it was so. And God saw that it was good. God saw that it was good. God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning. And there was evening, and there was morning. And there was evening, and there was morning. At the end of the story, even God rests, perhaps lulled into comfort by the pattern and rhythm of the very words from God's own mouth. This story from Genesis has a calming effect, I think. It has the power to bring comfort. It gives assurance that God can do anything God wills despite of chaos. And God can do it with nothing save for God's mighty will and word. It's good to hear the Genesis story of creation today, because it may seem like life is out of control. It would appear that the world is falling apart. God's light may even seem obscured by the chaos of our day and our moment. Dear church, what God began when God birthed creation continues to this very moment. Not only this moment, but the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. God specializes in bringing order from chaos. God shines light in darkness. God sets patterns of the Spirit to still the waters that roll around us or over us. In his letter to Colossians, Paul said this about Jesus. It's what he wanted the church there to hear about Jesus. Paul wrote, "We look at this Son and see the God who cannot be seen. We look at the Son and see God's original purpose in everything created. For everything, absolutely everything, above and below, visible and invisible, rank after rank after rank of angels, everything got started in him and finds its purpose in him. He was there before any of it came into existence and holds it all together, right up to this moment." Powerful words from Paul. Christ holds all creation together. All includes you, me, all of creation. This Holy Trinity Sunday, let's not be bogged down in doctrine. Instead, let the three-in-one God hold it all together. For us, for the life of the world and for all of God's creation. God is not intimidated at all by chaos. Confusion, disorder, bedlam, pandemonium, these truly are the raw materials from which God fashions very good works. Very good indeed.